Hey, I want to talk to you today about something almost no one talks about when it comes to starting a business. And that's the people who love you most might not be on board. And we're going to talk about how to take care of that, getting them on board, what to do. Hey, welcome back to Franchise Pitfalls and Profits. We are going to dive into part 4 of our 5-part series on why you won't start a business. We're going to talk about the people problem, what to do when your spouse or your family, maybe even your best friend, isn't on board. That's often a roadblock, and that's a big roadblock, and it's something we all need to be talking about. If you are on here and you are in the franchise development space, you're a broker, consultant, or maybe you're an emerging brand that is doing this all yourself. Maybe you're a fran dev rep for a large franchise. This is something we all need to be open about. This is something we all need to talk about. And that's why I'm bringing it to you today. So that's potentially the roadblock. It's not self-doubt and the fear of failure. It's not about money. Honestly, it's probably most likely not at all about the brand or about the business model. It's about the people around you. And really, very specifically, your spouse. Sometimes maybe your family, and sometimes maybe it's just another person who really cares about you. But this might also be what's really holding you back. So let's be honest, nobody starts a business in a vacuum. And you're not alone on this. You're not crazy for needing some buy in from these folks that are around you. In fact, these are particularly your spouse. And if you have adult children or growing children, in fact, these are the stakeholders. These are people that are going to be most impacted by you starting a business and you joining a franchise network. So we're going to here at Franchise Building Expert, we're going to encourage you. Actually, no, we're going to mandate that you work with these people during your investigation process. We don't go too far down the road with with our clients until they've engaged their spouse, their significant other, their family, the people that would be the support around you should you start a business and buy a franchise. We hear all the time, and I wonder why sometimes this is so common, that someone is seriously exploring a franchise ownership or starting a business in some way. They're excited and they're convinced it's the right thing to do. And then, bam, we hear, oh boy, my spouse just isn't on board. My spouse is really nervous. My adult kids or my best buddy thinks that, this is really unrealistic. So I'm going to say to you, don't feel bad. This is normal. It is normal. We have worked with thousands of people making this decision, and it's a big decision. And the people who love you will often respond, not because they want to discourage you, and not because they want to pour water on your passion, your fire, your excitement. They're doing it out of protection, but they're doing it when they don't always have the same perspective that you have, and certainly often they don't have the information. Their questions, their fears, their objections, they're coming from a good place. They're often coming from the heart, but that doesn't mean that it should drive your decision completely. Again, we encourage you that as part of your decision, and we're going to talk about how to do this in a way that's going to satisfy all the people involved, all the stakeholders. And again, we've worked with thousands of people through a process like this. They have felt this exact same family tension, and we know what helps. And this is the way where we are helping folks across the board that work with franchise building expert. So here's the truth: your spouse and your family's resistance, your buddies' resistance, is rarely about the business. What they are really worried about is financial risk, um, the impact it's going to have on their family, on their lifestyle, on the things that they do on a daily basis, and hopefully most of that impact is really going to be positive. But certainly, in the short term, it could be a negative, and this has to be discussed. Again, we'll talk about that in just a second. A lot of people's resistance is just the fear of the unknown. Maybe you've never gone down this path before. Maybe nobody in your family has ever. Maybe nobody in their family has ever. They're also concerned about failure and, maybe even, being embarrassed that something got started. It was fairly visible in your circles, in the community, in your church, the organizations you're part of. And now they might be a little bit embarrassed if it did fail. Again, going the franchise route dramatically increases your probability of success. Working with a company like Franchise Building Expert, where franchise consultants, advisors, coaches in this space of considering business ownership, and that is going to also increase your probabilities of success. But again, back to their concerns, they're concerned about failure. And then lastly, a lot of it is they're feeling excluded from the process. They are a stakeholder, and yet they're feeling excluded from the process. We've seen situations where the spouse wasn't really even resisting the idea of business ownership, but they just didn't understand what's going on. They didn't understand the role that they could play in the decision making, or maybe in the business itself. They didn't understand your timing, your timeline. They didn't understand how much you had investigated the franchise and worked with the franchise or worked with advisors like us. They didn't understand the plan, and so they're resisting. But it's out of really smart and wise resistance. So if you're experiencing or sensing resistance, a couple of things to do, a couple of things to ask. Ask them, what are they really afraid of? Get them to verbalize what's going through their minds. Ask them, and hopefully you've brought them in, and we're going to talk about this in a second, but ask them if there's areas that you haven't communicated clearly about. Because, and if you get nothing out of this session other than this last point, please listen clearly. Most conflicts come from uncertainty, not from disagreement. Let me say that again. Most conflicts come from uncertainty, not disagreement. So here's what we found really helps. Again, we've worked with 2,000 to 3,000 people over 25 years. And here's what we have found that the successful buyers do differently. One is they include the stakeholders really very specifically. 90% of it would be your spouse. Don't try to sell them. Please don't try to sell them. But you want to educate them. You want to get them to a place where their knowledge levels are nearly as high as yours. This is often what I've seen kill people's dreams, where the knowledge and interest levels are just a huge gap. And so bring your wife or significant other into, or your husband into the process as early as possible. Help them feel heard. Help them feel listened to. We want them to be involved in something that impacts them, like I said, their lifestyles and finances. Let them hear directly from you if you're or from your advisors, like your franchise building expert consultant, or the franchise developers reps themselves. Um, have them attend calls, validation calls, maybe with existing franchise owners, but get them involved early is the first key. Second thing is, don't make light of their concerns or their fear. Don't minimize them. Boy, that is one of the worst things that you could do. Say, you should, don't worry about it. I got this under control. That just is not going to work. Um, Share with them some of the real stories and that you're hearing from the franchisors. If they're more inclined to look at the numbers, like for example, my wife was not. She's not into the weeds from the standpoint of the numbers. But if your spouse is, then show them the numbers and tell them your plan. Share with them what you're thinking. A third thing is to speak to their values. If they value stability, you have to show them where franchising really can provide that. They don't think about that. Share with them what's going on in the marketplace. Share with them maybe your industry is laying off. Maybe your company specifically is laying off. Maybe there's, again, corporate financial instability, and where going business of your own, franchise of your own, is really going to provide the control, not only of the lifestyle, but the control of the income and the control of the ways to build wealth. So again, ways to combat or ways that successful buyers work through this is to include stakeholders early, particularly your spouse. Don't minimize their fear and concerns. Speak to their values. And then lastly, build a what if plan together. This is something that I had personally done. I looked at the worst case scenarios. I set a plan and a timeline in place. I had safeguards. We knew how much we were willing to risk at that time, and feel that, hey, if it was all gone and it didn't work out well, we could easily recover. We had plenty of bandwidth, the runway to recover. So build some what if scenarios and plans, worst case scenarios, best case scenarios. And again, share that with everybody. And then a final thought is to frame this as a partnership. Always be keeping in mind that being in business is being in business for yourself, but not by yourself. Recognize that your family, maybe short-term sacrifices or impacts on them. Show them that they're going to share in the longer-term lifestyle improvements and wealth building improvements. They're going to be part of that success, and pull them in as from a partnership perspective, if you will. All right, so now, if you are the spouse, or you're an adult son or daughter, maybe you're the best buddy of the person thinking about this, I thank you for listening to this episode, because the subject matter is more than you know. It's more important, and your support is so much more important than you know. But so does your ability to challenge with truth. And not just emotions. Please encourage with clarity. Please support the dreams of your family member, your spouse. Really, really important, because you may not be the one who would do something like this. Please don't, pour rain on or pour water on their passions to do this. But also, your involvement is going to help reduce some of their blind spots. If there really is something they are not objectively considering, please share that. But again, share it in a way that supports the person considering doing this. Don't let your own fears keep someone that you love from stepping up and stepping out into something that they're really going to be passionate about, and is really going to, in the long run, improve their lifestyle and their family's lifestyle. Many of the most successful franchise owners we know wouldn't be there today without someone close to them saying, I believe in you. I know it's scary. I'm scared with you. I'm there for you. I will be there for the days when the marketplace kind of kicks you in the stomach. I'm going to be there for you because I know you can do it. So, okay. So, and again, if you're a broker or a consultant listening to this, you need to help your clients work through this with their spouse. You have to help your clients work through this with their family members, with their friends and their buddies, certainly with the stakeholders, adult children, and so on. Please, as an advisor or a consultant, please do that. Please recognize the importance of the spouse and family in the long run, contributing into the encouragement and the belief and the support of your candidate should they move forward. And it really starts in the investigation process. All right. So, what do you do now? If you're facing resistance, please don't avoid it. Again, please don't diminish people's opinions. Lean into it. Look for clarity. Have patience with your stakeholders, with your spouse, but also continue to have confidence. Particularly, again, if you're working with someone like Franchise Building Expert, one of our seasoned, tenured advisors, have confidence you are doing everything you can to make an educated decision. And if you're serious about ownership, involve your spouse. Again, get them in quickly into the process. Show them you're not just randomly thinking about this. Show them you're not reckless. Show them you have a plan in mind of how to both investigate starting a business and that you're going to be responsible in doing so. And again, if you need help in having these conversations, again, your tenured franchise building expert advisor is going to help you through that. So be clear with your advisors, reach out to them. It's one of the things I know that we do best because we know that fear thrives in silence. Fear thrives in inaction. But confidence grows through clarity. Confidence grows through educating yourself and knowledge. Confidence grows through the wisdom of advisors. I've always said that knowledge is the antidote to fear. So the more you help your stakeholders and your spouse gain more knowledge about what you're thinking, the more likelihood your investigation process will be successful and your long-term decision to start a franchise is going to be successful and the right decision. So, hey, wrapping up, I thank you for listening to Franchise Pitfalls and Profits. If you've gotten value here today, please like us. Please leave me some comments here. I'd love to exchange ideas and thoughts with you. And very much, if you would, subscribe. We now are rounding the corner to over 2 years advising both consumers as well as those on the other side of the transaction, your advisors, your franchise development reps. We have over 2 years of podcasts here on Franchise Pitfalls and Profits. So subscribe. We're on Spotify. Be sure you never miss an episode.